If the mentors are telling you, hey, I don't think it's a good place for you to stay, blah blah blah, you got to go, right? You have to listen to the guidance at this point. And
Guidance and
yeah,
trust yourself, trust your in your own gut too,
a-
right?
a-
Like
exactly.
because what if you're fighting against yourself and you're just scared to take that step? Like,
Hmm.
oh, I've been here 5, 10, 15 years,
Yep. Oh,
you
that's
know.
scary. The longer you've been in places, the scarier it is
Yeah.
to leave. Welcome back, folks. This is a great episode. We're really excited, and we're talking about employee recognition. And before we get into it, like always, how you doing, Walt?
I am good, man. I'm excited to do these episodes and to talk about employee recognition and maybe share some examples of some personal stories that we've gone through or heard of or seen in our experiences, man. And just excited for another day, bro. How about you?
Agreed, man. No, this is definitely a very important topic. It hit us like lightning when we were prepping, and we were like, "Oh, what should we do next? What's a good subject? What's a good topic or
Mhm.
whatever?" And I forget how we got here, but when we saw it, we were like, "Yes, that's it."
Yes, yes,
We
yes.
were like, "That's the topic, man." So, employee recognition. Like, let's give them do you have anything like that you could share, that good
Oh,
or bad, real quick? Because
absolutely.
I'm sure more examples, but let's go ahead and start it off with something real, right? And now, a word from our sponsor, TimeTrak Go. To celebrate Small Business Month, TimeTrak Go is offering you a chance to experience the power of their time clock software completely free for the first month. The simply better employee time clock software that is going to make your life easier. TimeTrak Go already has a unique graphical employee time card, and that will help you quickly identify and fix the mistakes.
TimeTrak Go just announced the addition of automatic PTO accrual earnings, so you can say goodbye to those manual calculations. And TimeTrak Go integrates with your favorite payroll systems, including QuickBooks, Gusto, ADP Workforce Now, Paychecks, and more. Don't miss out. Take advantage of this special offer. Use the link in this post to start your 14-day trial in the month of May to qualify for your first month free. Let's go.
Let's go.
Um, I worked for a manager that, would ask you to do something. Like maybe
Hmm.
you would run a report and format it and like you do all the legwork, right?
Right.
And then when it came time to delivering it, he would say, "Oh, don't email it to the person that it needs to be delivered to. Send it to me first, and then I'll email it." And so he would make me do that, and he would take the credit for it at the end of the day. You
How
know,
did
and
you find out that they were taking the credit for it?
he would do it openly. He would like the person like our CFO at the time set out. He didn't have an office. He just had like a big cubicle space, and he set out in front of everyone in accounting at that time, and so he would go over there. Hey, yeah, I got you that report. I did that for you, or I did this, and it was
Wow.
just like you would say it and just walk over there and just like I'd be like, oh, so you're supposed to be, cool or whatever, but here you are stealing your employees' credit for stuff. So,
Wow. You see, and that's probably a big debate too. We could probably have a whole nother show on that because
mhm,
some managers feel like that's the way it is. Like
yeah.
what you do is for me, you know what I mean? And
Hmm.
I take all the credit. Like
Oh, yes.
some, right? Yeah, man. I get it now because I get it. I get it because even in working with you sometimes I could see like how you know, y- maybe early on when we first started, not anymore, but because I know, we know what it is now, but like
Hmm.
this, you were sensitive to that type of thing before, like I
Hmm.
could tell, right? But
Yeah.
I'm definitely not that manager, man. I love my team, like man, I want my team to do better than me. You know what I mean?
Hmm. Hmm.
So
So what about you? Did you have any
yeah,
experiences, man? Share
I mean,
some, man.
it's just one for now, and then we'll get into the what we're sharing for our employee recognition takeaways and stuff like that. But
Hmm.
and it's probably because it's more recent than not, and I don't think it was a malicious thing. I think it was because, again, I have a great relationship with that boss, and still I think it's a great relationship even after the fact. But it was just, I think it was just a really good lesson in I should have tracked my own stuff, and I should have been ready to talk about my own deal, right?
Yeah.
So review time came around, like bonus time came around, and this boss was like, "Well, you had a good year. You didn't have a great year."
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like,
Yeah.
"What?" I had just implemented something by myself across the whole company. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
actually, and it was literally employee performance and recognition stuff. So the irony in it, right? Like, and I'm like, what? And I wasn't prepared. So I deserved it. I deserved what I got there because I was so not prepared to be like, wait, hold on. Respectfully, this was my year.
Yeah.
That looks pretty great. And I should have been able to be like, boom, boom, I did this, I did this. So, and we'll talk more about that. But yeah, that was it, man. That was that. That's
Wow, man.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But we
Hey,
learn, we live and learn, right?
you live and learn, man. Like, and and like some of the, and I'm sure that both of us have felt when we get into section one here to talk about common employee frustrations
Perfect segue.
regarding employee recognition. So let's get right into it with that, man.
Yeah, go
Uh,
for it.
so hey, we're gonna talk about in section one. We're gonna talk about different common employee frustrations. So number one that we have here is feeling invisible. So imagine you put an extra effort in on a project, but it goes unnoticed. That is a common frustration, feeling like your hard work is invisible. So what would you do in that situation? In that situation, you should share your accomplishments, kind of what Brian was saying in team meetings or
Hmm.
your one-on-one with your supervisor.
Yep.
So in that scenario, when you discuss your achievements, you want to say, hey, I wanted to highlight the success of this recent project. It took a lot of teamwork, and I'm proud of what we accomplished together. Now, what you shouldn't do is you should not keep your mouth quiet, closed. You shouldn't stay quiet
Yep.
about your achievements and hoping that someone notices. Like you have to remember that you are your brand. And so when we talked about that, we said like, hey, like how some of these organizations, these big, huge, giant, successful businesses, they have their brand and they're always advertising themselves, right? And so
Hmm.
think about it in that way, like, hey, you want to advertise your accomplishments, your successes. You want to
Absolutely.
definitely advertise those things to make sure that, hey, like, hey, I know what I've done and contributed here, and I know how I've added value. And you
Hmm.
want to make sure that you shine a light on those things for yourself because it can go unnoticed.
I like the word politely in here, so I see it in
Hmm.
here. I know,
Hmm.
because that I think we have to keep that in mind too, right? We can't be arrogant about it. I mean, we can be,
Hmm.
but it's going to be to our fault.
Hmm.
So we should politely, and in context, I don't know, the right time for the right. Hopefully, your team has an opportunity to share these type of things. If not,
Hmm.
shoot, you might want to blow out an email every now and then and just
Something.
say, "Yeah, hey, update, guys. We
Yeah.
did this.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody, for the coordination and cooperate. Blah 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 blah. Like you said.
Something, man.
Yeah, yeah.
So the next one, spotty recognition.
Hmm.
So you get praised one week, and then the next week it's radio silence,
Yep.
and it's inconsistent, right?
Yep.
They'll praise you on something. Maybe you ain't noticed they may praise you on something that they had a hand in, but something that you completed yourself is like, you know, whatever. And that's just part of your normal stuff that you're supposed to do. So, as Brian said, what to do in this situation is politely ask for feedback during meetings and your one-on-ones. How you could do that? So let's say this was a scenario. I was wondering if we could discuss my recent contributions. I'd love to get your thoughts on how I can continue to excel. You can start off the conversation just like that,
Yep.
right? Because
Yep.
you're going in because you can kind of disarm the person instead of going in like you
Yep.
know full throttle, guns blazing.
Yep.
Like, coming at the person, come to them, and this is almost as if you're asking them to, hey, tell me how to improve, tell me where to grow, and say, hey, I accomplished this recently. Tell me what I could do better. It's all about how you frame it, right?
Yeah.
So what
Agreed.
you don't want to do is continue getting frustrated and letting that build up without
Yeah.
addressing it,
Nope.
because as we know, you can hold on to things, just whether it's professionally or personally, and you can hold on to those emotions and bottle those things up, and it's like those carbonated drinks. You shake them up, and then the wrong thing will set somebody off, and then you may have a big mess, you know. So you want to be careful with that
Yeah.
stuff. Another thing you want to understand in this situation about an employee frustrations is having unclear expectations. So imagine you're an employee and you don't know what's expected of you, right? You're just kind of there, you're just placed in this position and say, hey, do work. Okay, what do I do? how,
Got a
how
great
do I do
example.
it? You know what I'm saying? Like, almost, yeah,
Yep.
before I pass it
Mm-hmm.
to you,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna set it up with something that I've heard you say. I'm sure other people say it, but you say, hey, I just don't want to tell you to go fish. I want to show you how to fish.
Mm-hmm.
So go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, no, that's so true. And unclear expectations, not, and this is what made me think of it. Imagine not knowing what's expected of you, leading to
Mm,
confusion and stress. And so I got hired one place to be payroll manager. And when I got there, it's a small shop and payroll was kind of already stabilized.
mm.
And so I was like, what am I doing? You know what I mean? What is it that
Yeah.
they expect from me? What are
Yeah.
my expectations? And literally, like, I remember, some like in the first week, I didn't get any formal, what we call it, orientation,
Mm.
training. There was nothing. They literally just sat me down, gave me all the log, it gave me the access to everything, and was like, "Eh, go to work,
Have at it.
have at it." I'm like, what? This was the first week there.
Yeah.
You have to set some type of guidelines and expectation. And this is more on the employer side of things. But if you're the employee, that's the outcome. You get frustrated, you're
Yeah.
you're you're confused, you're
Yeah.
stressed out now because now you don't know what the expectations are and you don't know if you're doing good or bad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I remember I remember the excuse me, I remember like one of the employees was kind of spying on me and told my boss, "Oh yeah, he's not doing anything. He's like shopping on Amazon." And
Mm.
so, and my boss brought it up, and they're like, and the boss is like, "Oh, you real like nonchalant, lackadaisical, whatever. You real laid back." And I'm like, "What is it that you want me to do?" I'm looking at payroll. Payroll doesn't run till next week, so that's when you actually look at it. You know what I mean? I am reviewing with I am asking. I'm starting. But there's only so much of it. It's a small shop, like, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and a story. The rest of that can be another time or whatever. But that was the like the heart of it. It was like, yo,
Yeah.
why am I? What am I doing? And now you pulling me in to talk about I'm not doing anything. You
See,
didn't you didn't
yeah,
give me you
man.
didn't give me now one run through. There was no nothing.
So,
So
so
yeah.
let me ask you. I know I've heard you say you used a quote, right? This quote before that, how you do anything is how you do everything,
Yep.
right? And so with that in mind, would you say that that experience at the job got better, or was it more of the same? Because
Oh
that's how they
gosh.
started you off,
Ha.
you
So
know?
it honestly it was leadership at that situation and the leaders did change.
Okay, see.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. Okay. All
Yeah.
right. So what to do when you have these unclear expectations, right? You want to have candid conversations with your supervisor about expectations. We can go into that scenario saying like, hey, I want to make sure I'm meeting expectations. Can we go over what you're looking for in terms of performance, right?
Hmm.
Simple. You can start it
Yep.
off with this, that. What not to do is just assume that everything is fine without seeking clarification. Because to Brian's story or his situation that he uh, shared with us, in that situation, you see how Brian's supervisor and coworker like kind of just like got on him for not apparently doing anything, that's what's most situations happen, right? That in most
Hmm.
situations, that's what happens, right? Like
Yep.
you have when you get in trouble, like, hey,
Yep.
you didn't tell me to do anything. You didn't tell me you didn't explain that they don't care what your answer is. All right, hey, you need to come to me and
Yeah.
tell me,
Or it
basically,
was
right?
very early on. This is not working out.
Yeah,
You're fired. Gotta let
yeah,
you go. Could have been as simple as that. Like, wait, whoa,
yeah,
whoa, whoa, what? And
yeah.
too late.
Yep. So don't assume that everything is fine. You want to say something. And again, this is your brand that you're protecting. You're protecting yourself. CYA, as they say in the payroll corporate America world.
Yep.
All right. And then the last one
Of
in the common employee frustrations
there you go.
is feeling undervalued. And you're going to feel this way if you're not getting the proper
Sucky feeling.
recognition.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? It's never good to have somebody stealing your credit, taking your work. I've seen other situations where two people were responsible for working on something, and then one person did the majority of the stuff, and
Hmm.
then they ended up taking credit, like in the meetings, like, hey, oh yeah, I did this part, I did that, and what's her name only helped with this, or what's his name only helped with that. So,
Oh.
yeah, so people were stealing the other people's shine.
Hmm.
So feeling undervalued, you think constantly, you're constantly thinking about feeling like your efforts don't matter. It's very demotivating, right?
Yep.
It'll cause you to not want to do the work or to do the bare minimum, especially for if you're a high performer and somebody's constantly doing this to you. It'll make you want to not do anything,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. For
And
real.
they're going to see that reflected in your work potentially, and it's going to harm you. So what to do in this situation when you're feeling undervalued? You want to express that. You want to express those feelings to your supervisor, and with the focus on the impact of the lack of recognition, right?
Yeah.
So in this scenario, you could say it's like, hey, I've been feeling a bit undervalued lately. I believe recognition could boost morale and motivation for the team, right? And what you don't want to do is like keeping your emotions bottled up again without addressing them, because they're, like I said, going back to those carbonated drinks, you shake it up, you open it up, it's gonna create a mess.
That's a good one.
Those
That's what
things
it's
bubble
like.
up. Think
Yep.
about it.
That's a good example. Yep.
Those things bubble up in you,
Yep.
right? And we're all human. We all can have these frustrations at work.
Yes.
And, you should never just hold on to stuff. I know there's a time and a place for everything, but, it's better to think about it rationally and talk about it when you're in a rational mindset, and then something causes you to go off and you're just popping off on everybody. You don't want that.
Yep.
All right, so section number 2, navigating tense conversations about employee recognition, right?
Level
You,
up a
you,
little bit here. Yeah.
yeah, you may have some situations where you go to have the conversation and it's tough. The person might be tough to talk to. The
Yep.
person that you're communicating with,
Toxic,
toxic. They
toxic
could be
environment,
toxic.
toxic bosses.
Yeah,
Yep.
yep. So this is something to think about, right? These are just a few tips and things to think about when it comes to navigating these tense conversations. So first of all, both parties, but you especially as the employee, you want to make sure that you are open. You are open to communication. You want to imagine what that's like, having an open conversation about recognition without having fear of repercussions, right?
Or
So you want to be mindful of that. You want to make sure that you temper your expectations, because if this boss has always been here and has always been like that, and you said something to them and stuff like that before, you may want to just realize like, hey, okay, maybe the situation I'm in is not, if there's not a change in leadership or a change in HR or whatever, like maybe it's time for me to move on. Like, I'm not telling you to quit, but you may want to consider your options here, right? So going back to open communication, try to be open-minded. And you going in open-minded may disarm the person you're trying to talk to anyway. So another tip for employees is choosing the right time and place for discussions. perhaps doing a performance review or a one-on-one meeting. Those would be the perfect settings to do it. You may not want to it depends on the situation you're in, right? You may not want to bring it up in front of everybody or the
It
detail.
depends. Yeah, it
It depends,
depends.
right? It depends on the scenario and the situation, but you want to make sure you choose the right time and place, right? Like you may not want to do it during a town hall meeting or a company wide meeting and then talk about it on there. I don't know if you want to do that or not, but just try to choose the right time.
That's the Jerry Maguire, right? Don't
Yeah.
you gotta be careful if you're not trying to Jerry Maguire it.
Yeah, for real. And you want to, when you go into these conversations, you want to provide specific examples. You don't want to go in just saying like, hey, because people are going to want proof, right? They're going to want to say, okay, give me an example of what you're talking about what I do, about how we don't recognize you or we don't give you your credit when credit is due. You want to make sure you have a business case, right?
Hmm.
You want to have a bulletproof business case when you go and have these conversations with someone, because if they can poke holes in your argument and say, oh, whatever, and they still may try to, either even if you have legit examples, they still may try to like poke holes in it. So you want to try to be as bulletproof as you can and having these examples ready. Another tip for employees is prepare a list of your achievements, as Brian said, to discuss during the performance reviews or feedback sections. You
Yep.
know, have your notes, have those copious notes written down, write down your accomplishments, your achievements, things that you, even some of the low hanging fruit. Like sometimes people can just say like, oh, that's, you always do that. And they kind of just kind of just
Mm-mm.
brush it
Nope.
off like, oh, Brian
Ma-
always take care of that.
maintaining
Yeah.
maintaining is a feat as well,
So
right? If I've stabilized something
what,
and I keep it stabilized, that
what do
is
you,
an yep,
What do you say,
ongoing
Brian?
success.
You say this sometimes. I make this look too easy.
Yeah. Yep.
And
That's
so
right.
like and sometimes people can get just so used to you doing it and providing it or delivering that service, and they don't give you the recognition for it in
Hmm.
that way, right? And be like, hey, if I didn't do this, it would be
Yeah.
a mess. If
Yep.
my team didn't do this, it would be a mess. So
Mhm.
so another thing is like you want to seek feedback. You want to be open again to receiving constructive feedback in order to grow and improve, because you also want to think, and this may be a question that's not on here, but what if somebody is doing something that's a part of their job description that's normal,
Mhm.
and they're just like, hey, that's a part of your job. That's what you're supposed to do. It's not a implementation. We're implementing a new software or adding to our tech stack or anything like that. And they're just like, hey, everybody does the same thing. Like, you know, thank you for doing your job. Like, so that's how some employers come at it. But I think still as an employees, you still want to be told that you're doing a good job, whether it's a part of your normal daily
Yes.
functions,
That's yep. There you go. Yep.
or if you're doing a project, a one-off project, or some type of implementation or whatever line of work that you're in, right?
Yeah.
So what's it gonna say?
It's like, do I meet expectations or am I exceeding expectations?
Yes,
And both you
yes,
want to know, right? I mean, all
yeah,
three, you want to know all of it, right? A good employee wants to know if they're not meeting expectations either, so they can meet expectations.
yeah,
So yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with understand. Hey, it just may be, hey, you meet expectations. Thank you. We
hmm,
appreciate that. You know what I mean?
yeah.
That and hey, nothing wrong with that because if that's solid,
Yeah, it's
that's
very
solid.
solid. It's
Yeah.
very solid. Like, and I think, like, to your point, like Brian, just like you just said, a good employee is gonna want to make sure that they're doing a good job
Yep.
for their employer. It's like, hey, am I doing good? And that kind of segues into this last tip that I had before I pass it off to Brian now.
For real.
So yeah, for real, for real. Maybe you want to ask a question or start off the conversation like, hey, what can I do to enhance my performance?
Yep.
That will encourage a two-way conversation.
Yep.
You know,
Absolutely.
you want to be careful, not careful, but you want to be mindful of how you go to people, right? One of the
Hmm.
things that I learned from Crucial Conversations, I listened to the audiobook and read the hardcover as well. One of the things that they said is that you want to make sure that you go to people, not go at people.
Yes.
So even if you're the employee who's looking to get more recognition for you and your coworkers, right? Because if that is the case and everyone's not getting recognized there, you speaking up may be, the start, the first domino that causes the thing to change, right?
Mm.
So just because somebody else may not say anything doesn't mean that you shouldn't, right? So you want to be careful about that. And then I'm gonna pass it over for Brian to finish this out.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you. And I love how this is repeating it. Like you know, what do prepare a list of your achievements to discuss performance reviews,
Hmm.
and that's gonna, spoiler alert. That's my big takeaway. Like you've got
Yes.
to keep that list of stuff. So section 3, we talk about what employees should do if their employer doesn't change. Right? We talked
Ooh.
about right the first two things we talked about. Look, these are the frustrations. These are how you fix it. But what if now the employer is not budging? It's toxic and it's not going to change. So and again, boom, self advocacy is the first tip. Imagine advocating for yourself by showcasing your skills and achievements. Yeah, you got to do that, right? Not at this point, it may be just a resume build. You know what I mean? At this point, because if they're not going to
Yeah.
change, right, this is your last
Hmm.
ditch effort to and maybe, you know, unfortunately, this, and I don't know if it's in here or not, but something we might want to, yeah, it's in here. So we'll get to it. So again, self-advocacy, right? Keep a record of your accomplishments to share during performance evaluations or when discussing career growth.
Yes.
Yes, like they knew I was coming.
Hmm.
Okay. Document documentation, the duh, right? Think about
Hmm.
keeping a record of achievement. Yeah, all the time. The tip
Hmm.
is that yes, keep a record, an ongoing record, and it's because, and we don't think about it until the resume point is there. Oh, I got to get my resume together now. I got to think back on all these things that I did and blah blah blah. And it's hard then, right? It's hard to remember what you did all
Hmm.
year long, or for however many few years that you haven't updated your
Yeah.
resume,
Yeah.
right? So you
That's perfect, man. Because
why?
most
Go
most
ahead.
people most people don't update their resume until it's time for them to shift
Exactly.
or move on,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly. It's too, not that it's too late, but you're bound to forget things.
Oh, absolutely.
I did have a few recruiters over the years that help you dig out those nuggets, right? They have a long interview with you and they help you dig out those nuggets, and they'll update your resume accordingly. And because they're right there, if they're good recruiters, right, they're in it for a gain and they need to do this. But
Yeah.
anywho, so self advocacy, right? So if things are not changing, okay, keep a
Hmm.
record of what you're doing well. Even maybe even the crucial time, like, oh wow, they think I did this poorly, but here's the scenario, right? And then you
Hmm.
can, document that as well, because that may be a great interview. That may be a good exit interview share, right? Because if you're
Hmm.
leaving, right, we're at this point, we're really thinking about leaving, and they may exit interview, and they may say, well, why are you leaving? Boom, here's my long list of why I'm leaving.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? And the things
Yep.
that didn't happen for me.
Yep. Especially
Oof.
if you documented those things before and
Yep.
you've had those conversations
That's
before.
right.
Like,
That
hey,
yes.
like his record of every
Two
conversation I've
years
ever had.
ago on
Yep.
this day, this
Yes.
manager, whoa, that'll be impactful, right?
Yes.
So look, it may not change anything right then and there, but you could be a catalyst for change at that company. Maybe that leader, maybe that's the straw that kind of does it for that leader, and then they realize they got to let that leader go, right?
Uh-huh.
What do we see on LinkedIn all the time? We don't leave jobs, we leave managers,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
So the next tip is seeking support.
Yes.
Imagine seeking support from colleagues or mentors when feeling undervalued. Yes,
Yes.
this was the bit I was jumping ahead to, because you may
Hmm.
have to go to HR, right? You may end up right if HR is HR. We gotta keep in mind HR is works for the company still, right? So
Hmm.
they want to balance this out. They really want to impact some change. If you're coming to HR and saying, "Hey, I'm being mistreated, I'm being undervalued," blah blah,
Yes.
they need to address that, right?
But one of the things that I like under seeking support, you see how it says the tip for seeking support?
Hmm.
What's the one word that's there? trusted
Trusted colleague. Yeah.
or
Yeah.
mentor.
Yeah.
Yes. So,
Yeah, because you don't want you got to be careful who you go to. We talk about this in another show, right? Making friends at work
yes.
and how delicate that could be. And this is one of those reasons because if you don't have a good friend, then you don't tell them because then they're gonna go twist that story around
Oh
first,
yes, yes.
right? They're gonna right. Who knows what damage they can do?
Well, no matter what type of office you're at, whether it's a corporate office or whatever, like
Yep.
the rumor mill is a real thing at the office, right? And
Oh,
so
absolutely, absolutely.
if you tell somebody something that you have those chatting Carls and chatty Cathys or whatever, like you
Mm-hmm.
have those people,
Mm-hmm.
and you tell them your frustrations, and next thing you know, your business is in the streets, as they say, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Exactly right. Um,
trusted
trust.
colleagues,
Yeah.
mentors for advice.
Yes.
No, because
Yes. It's so true.
I had my experience with some pretty shady
Yeah.
HR teams, and you go
Yep.
to try to say something like, "Hey, my supervisor did this or this person did that," and then they're in there, you know, talking crap about you and talking down on you and stuff like that. Man, come
Yep.
on.
Yeah. That's bad. That's a bad
Yeah.
HR department.
Hmm.
Toxic environments, right?
Yep.
So, so at that point, you might want to really picture considering an alternative employment if recognition issues persist, really.
Yeah.
So, there's no right way to do it, man. These are things that you got to feel. Like you really have to trust your gut. You have to pray on it. Whatever your process is, you have to trust that process and execute
Yes.
accordingly. If the mentors are telling you, "Hey, I don't think it's a good place for you to stay," blah blah blah, you got to go, right? You have to listen to the guidance at this point. And
Guidance and
yeah,
trust yourself, trust you in your own gut too, right?
a-
Like
exactly.
because what if you're fighting against yourself and you're just scared to take that step? Like,
Hmm.
oh, I've been here 5, 10, 15 years,
Yep. Oh,
you
that's
know?
scary. The longer you've been in place, the scarier it is
Yeah.
to leave.
The
Yep.
scary it might look like, hey, it's going to be a lateral move if I move. Like, well, for some people, even a lateral move will be better because they feel like, hey, it's a better work environment, and I make what I'm making now, and I'm still able to pay my bills and support my family.
Yep.
Whatever the situation or the circumstances are, the details are in that situation. Everybody's situation is different, so you got to do what's right for you, and you'll know. Like, what's that saying that all the old heads tell us, man? When you're tired of being sick and tired, you'll
Yeah,
do
you go.
something.
Yep. That's
Yeah.
right. That's right. Yeah. Yeah. And so, and just to round that out, it's reflect on your values and your career goals at that point. Because again, if it's in a toxic place, that's it. And if recognition is not working there, you may want to explore other opportunities and align better with your aspirations and just being happy at work, which is important,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So the last one here, as we round out employee recognition, is cultivating a culture of recognition, right? If you're a
Mm,
leader, right? Importance of leadership. Imagine having leaders who set the tone for appreciation and acknowledgement. That
yes.
is amazing. And if you are a leader, you need to do this, right? And some of the tips for the employees is really express your appreciation when leaders do recognize your efforts and
Hmm.
they do have the positive reinforcement and encourages a culture of recognition. Like if they're doing these things, if you're in a good place, man, be thankful. Like, you know,
Yes, you said it, bro.
share that, right?
You,
Share that appreciation.
you said it, because like I totally agree with you on that statement, because like you may already have a boss that gives you all the accolades and all the recognition that you want, but sometimes we as employees, oh, just that's just my boss, whatever,
Hmm.
and they forget the human aspect of that, because
Yes.
what if this person is like, hey, they do go above and beyond to make sure that everyone gets their accolades and gets their praise, but then they're just like, hey, my team doesn't appreciate it, or whatever, and they
That's
can
right.
feel some type of way. So it kind of works both ways. That's why it's called a work relationship, right?
Yep.
Whether they're your peer or subordinate or your superior,
Yep.
right? Like you need to really, like I said, like it says here, it's really important to understand leadership in this case.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Express that appreciation to your leaders, and if they implement recognition programs, right? Be thankful
Hmm.
for that. If you're a leader, think about a positive impact of structure recognition programs, right?
Yes.
If your company doesn't already have this, I think as an employee or a leader, if your company
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have this right now,
Mm-hmm.
you 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 all can be the catalyst for change at that company. Start talking about it. Start
Yeah.
socializing it, right? Because a business case doesn't always have to start off with a strong, like, here's my documentation, push it in your face. This is
E-
what you got to do now.
Exactly.
We want this
Exactly.
now. No, you can start by socializing it, talking
Yes.
about it, just
Yep.
planting that seed, having conversations with leaders that might be receptive, having those conversations with HR. Hey, we should have an employee recognition program. I recognize that this company doesn't have it, and it
Mm-hmm.
would be great for morale. An easy business case win is that it's it adds value would not without having have to pay people more money,
Mm-hmm.
right? So
Yep.
if retention is a problem, this is definitely an easy solve. Well,
Yeah.
it's one of them. It's a tool in it. It's not end all. So, and if you have it, right, if your company has it and you're not thinking about it, you need to actively participate in any recognition programs that your company has, right?
Yes,
And
sir.
and encourage your peers to do so. Like, you can't complain about the program, the company, but then not participate in trying to make it better, right?
Yes. As we near the end of this episode, we'd like to extend our heartfelt gratitude to you for listening. Before we sign off, here are a couple quick things. Don't forget to follow It's About Payroll on LinkedIn and It's About Your Paycheck on Facebook and TikTok. We love engaging with our audience, and you'll be able to receive exclusive updates and behind the scenes content. Thank you for being a part of our payroll community, and thank you for being a part of this journey with us. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and most importantly, keep going.
Because we're all a catalyst for change at these companies and our companies. And if we're not being assertive with that, then you're not really
Man,
contributing.
if you, yes, yes, you're absolutely right. Participation is
Hmm.
needed. Yes,
Hmm.
I get that you're frustrated. I get that historically at the job you're at, they haven't been doing this, and maybe you're a little bitter
Yep.
because of it. Maybe you have some resentment, towards your peers or your supervisors or your employer.
Yep.
And you ever meet those people that are like, hey, why don't you say anything? They're like, nah, I'm not gonna say anything. It's always been like that here. Nah, like you're just one of those people who are just like, just in a bad mood because of it. But
Exactly.
you refuse to leave and you don't move on. And so you stay there. And it's not a good it won't be a good experience for anyone. You
No.
are those people that you work with, right? So,
Yep.
yeah,
It's a good one. Yeah, it's a good one. And just to sum it all up, invest in yourself and keep a record of key accomplishments, all the important things you've done. Keep a
yes,
record of it. Keep an ongoing, like in real time, right? Even if it's just a piece
yes,
of paper, it's just a Word document that you dump on and just add notes to. There's a ton of tools out there, folks. All you
yeah,
want to do, right? And I started jotting it down, some thoughts, but like maybe the task, the timeline that it took to
hmm,
do what was involved, and the impact that it had on the organization. Those are
yes.
four quick things, right? That you could just keep a track of. Every time you do something, fill out those kind of bullet points,
So say it again. It was
the
task.
task that you did, right? The time it took you to do it, and like what was the other one? I just said something that, yeah, I forgot already. The impact that it had on the organization.
Hmm.
So that's some way to just kind of, document this
Hmm.
stuff. And again, encourage everyone to be proactive in seeking recognition and contributing to a positive workplace, right? I think one of the
Everyone. It
yes.
says everyone.
Every-
Everyone. So that means
uh,
you, me, everyone has to take an active role in this.
Absolutely, absolutely right. Yeah, everyone needs to contribute to. Oh, that's what I was gonna say. Like, we just recently had a holiday, mixer of some sort,
Hmm.
and we were just lucky. Like, no matter, it's an amazing thing, and shout out to our current CEO, because everybody, it doesn't matter what level or who hired them at this point, but everybody says the people here are amazing to work with.
Yeah,
The people
absolutely.
here are amazing to work with, right? I don't
Mm,
know how he did it, but he is getting the right people on the bus at every level, right?
hmm.
And when I say on the bus, folks, I refer to this book by Jim Collins called Good to Great. It talks about how companies go from good to great, right? And the strategies to get there. And one of them is getting the right, they call it like imagine the company as a bus. And we need the right people on the bus to go where it needs to go, right?
So
Now, the reason why we say the right people on the bus, because if the destination changes, the right people on the bus aren't going to care. They're going to say no problem and just kind of roll with it,
yep.
right? Whereas the wrong people are going to be like, no, 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 we have to go there. No, we don't. We just made a decision as a collective that we're not going there.
Or there'll be like the kids that like, are we there yet? Are we
Are we
there
there
yet?
yet? Are we there? Exactly. Clearly, you're not working, so you don't know what. So, again, it's just the last thing. Encourage everyone to be proactive in seeking recognition and contributing to a positive workplace. If a lot of times we spend more time, even if you work from home, you're spending more time dealing with your job than you do with your family in some instances. So
Hmm.
you want it to be a positive experience. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So yeah, that's it, folks. We hope you. Anything else, Walt, before we lock it up?
No, we'll have some additional resources for further reading, some links that you can
Oh,
read
there's
that can
some.
may help
Yeah,
you with
I
that
see
stuff
them.
like Forbes, how to advocate for yourself at work, the
Nice.
Muse, 6 scripts to help you talk to your boss about
Oh,
recognition.
that's awesome.
Sherm has a nice article, The Power of Employee Recognition. Harvard Business Review, how to give your team the right kind of praise.
Oh, that's dope.
Forbes again, 8 impactful ways to thank your employees, and Gallup, why employee recognition is so important. So we'll have all those added to the show notes as
I
well, but they can be helpful for employees and
Absolutely.
employers.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. No,
Yeah.
those are great. Those are really great, folks. Go check that out. Those look awesome. And one of them made me think about something that I forgot to say.
Hmm.
And we're talking about recognition, recognition, recognition. But be careful if you're a leader, right? Be careful. And then even if you're, an employee and you're a leader, period, right? You don't
Hmm.
want to overdo it where it's white noise now, right? Every day you're like, you're great, you killed it, yeah. And just like, because now if you're doing that all the time, then that becomes the norm. And like the employees really don't know, are you just yesing me to death now? Or so,
And see,
right?
not
Be
every employee,
mindful.
not every employee. You have to know the people that you like that in your audience too, right? Because
Yeah, a
like
bit. Yep,
you may have somebody
absolutely.
that you tell them once like, oh, you're doing a great job, but then if you tell them once a day or once a week, oh, you're doing a great job, and then you try to up the frequency of that, they're like, oh, you don't, I don't, I'm just, you don't have to tell me all that, like
Right,
just. You saying that once on Monday is good enough for me. You don't have to tell me every other day of the week. And there's some people who are like that, right?
right.
That it's not about that. They just
Yeah,
had just
yeah.
hey, you told me enough.
You told, yeah, you said it enough. Exactly
Yeah.
right.
No, so you do want to make sure that you have the balance out. You don't want to be a leader that all you do is just give them praise, and then when it's time to have correction, you know,
Oh, exactly. Because then the corrections won't come. They'll be like, "Yo, how come you haven't told me this?
yeah,
Holy crap! I could have
you
corrected
tell
this."
me how great I am all the time. You
Yeah,
tell me how awesome I am. You tell me this, you tell me that. You want to be able to be balanced and also, there's a strategy, right? Like they say in the conversation, like start with 2 things, like, oh, you do this really well, you do this really well.
yeah,
But I want to talk to you about this.
yeah, yeah. And
Right.
then there's we could probably cover this at some point. There's another one where you sandwich it and you do one
Yes.
good, one bad, and then the good
Yes.
land off on a good.
Yes.
Or
Yes.
some. So
Yes.
there's a lot of, but to your point, know your audience because then that determines the strategy that you pick
Yes.
because you know your team. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So yeah, all right, folks. Thanks
All
for
right.
joining us today. We love you. I hope you enjoyed employee recognition. Definitely a lot of good things to talk about, a lot of threads to pull, a lot of stuff to research. So have
Hmm.
fun with that. And I think the biggest takeaway is advocate for yourself, document your work. And that's it. We love you.
Participate.
Yep. Peace,
Peace.
folks.
Before we sign off, here are a couple quick things. Don't forget to follow It's About Payroll on LinkedIn and It's About Your Paycheck on Facebook and TikTok.
Thank you for being part of our payroll community, and thank you for being a part of this journey with us. Until the next time, keep learning, keep growing, and most importantly, keep going.